everybody. This is the basic book that I have a video and written tutorial for on my website, koalacat.com. I'll have a link below to my website. I'm going to build a album with the 12 Days of Christmas paper. I have part of a 12 by 12 and most of an 8 by 8, and I thought I would use it up and make a Christmas album. It is Christmas, and let's see what I come up with. The first thing I need to do is decide what pages I'm going to use for my mats. And I think maybe I'm going to build this as... Hi everybody, this is Geneva, and I am going to build a scrapbook using my basic scrapbook, which you can find the free tutorial and video on my website. I will put the link below. There's also a YouTube video of this. I'm going to use the 12 Days of Christmas paper. I have some 12 by 12 and 8 by 8 pages left, and I thought I would use them up. And we're going to do this page by page, so you will see how I build and embellish this particular book. The first thing I'm going to do is knot the inside cover. I do the inside cover after I decide what my cover is going to look like, in case I want to do maybe a knob or brads or something that would pierce the book. So we'll start with the first page, and the first thing we need is a mat that measures 5 1/4 by 7 1/4. I have a little mark here. That is my clue that I'm going to want to use a magnet. Now the second piece of paper I want to cut is 5 1/2 by 5 1/4, and we're going to score it at 3/8 and 1/2. So that will build up to here. And you'll see this mark here. That's because I'm going to do another layer that's going to fold, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a slit, not through the base cardstock, but through the mat, and tuck the tag under there so it will not be visible when it gets flipped up. So this piece is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it will fit here. And I will have a tab here that is a magnet closure. So let's get started. Okay, I've already cut the mat that I want to use on this paper, on this page. The next thing to do is to cut my cardstock. And I'm going to use the same cardstock as I used to build this book with. You could do a contrasting color if you wanted to. I suppose you could even use the heavier colored papers, but I am not. I have plenty of this card around. I get it at Michael's when they do them 5 for $10. And I stock up, and they do that sale regularly. so this is 65 pound. They call it cream. Since I just built this book, I have a lot of pieces left over from when I cut the papers to make the envelopes. Let's go out a little bit so you see more of my work area. Okay, so first, the largest one is 5.5 by 5 1/4. So, see if any of this, yeah, this all measures 5 inches wide at its narrowest point. So my smallest one measurement is 5 1/4, which means this is not big enough. So 5.5. That's the first one. And my next little piece is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now, I will not throw these away. These will make good backgrounds for tags, journaling spots, all kinds of things. So I just don't throw away my scraps. In fact, I have a container full of scraps. This is the edge I'm going to do my scoring on. Now the reason why I score at 3/8 and then at 1/2 is to give this a little bit of room for it to being built up underneath. And it's not just the stuff I put on, but for photos and anything else that somebody wants to tuck into here. Okay, so there's that one. And the next one, this is our score spot. 8 1/2. Now I'm going to take my paper piercer, and I am going to pierce where the end of these lines are. Now I'm going to take my paper punch. Hello. To invite you guys to the party, and I'm going to use the small hole. What is it? It's 1/8, and I am just going to put a hole there. This helps stop your paper from wanting to tear into the margins. do that on my pattern paper. Don't cut this, girl. You'll be upset with yourself. Okay, so the mat for this is 5 by 4 3/4. And this is how it's going to build out. So, what piece do I want there? Do this one. So it's 4 3/4 wide by 5 tall. I'm going to use vintage photo on my edges. And I am just doing the edges of the paper. I'm not distressing it or aging it. I like the nice bright colors on here. Okay. Since I have already done this, should edge the pages of my book as well. So we put it on so the pairs aren't upside down. Use my 1/2-inch tape runner. Oh, bother. Since I'm going to be cutting into this, a little extra adhesive on the back. So I've already got that punched. Just see it to punch again. So now I want to cut here and here. This is the same thing you do if maybe you wanted to tuck a tag in there. If you were just going to make this, you could just tuck a tag right in there. It's exactly the same technique. Just slides right in there, and we'll adhere it down from the other side. So let's get this edged. Is 4 by 4 3/4, so 4 tall, 4 3/4 wide. I think maybe I'll use this one. I'll use this sheet. This one, I'll use this part of it. So 4 tall, and 4 3/4 wide. There's my tape, there's my tape. Oh. Some score tape on the back because it's just going to be easier. And yes, you can tear this. I just like the nice straight edge. Sometimes, sometimes I do tear when it doesn't matter. This time it matters to me. You know, I went and glued that down anyway. Oh well, it's alright. It's going to be hidden under the mat. The next paper. So keep it nice and strong. Peel off your backing. And you want to keep the score line here, so it's not glued down, because you want this bit of room here. Now you don't have to do this extra space if you don't want to, but I find my designs are much happier that way. This will just go on there like that. I'm going to get the other mats on here. So I need another piece 4 by 4 3/4. I'm going to use the same paper, but I'm going to put the other side down. 4 3/4. Looks like this was glued a little wonky. Here. Okay, now before I go any further, I have to decide what I'm going to use for a tab for my magnet, because it's going to affect where I place the magnet under the mat. I'm going to make my tabs with pieces from Parisian Accents. I'll either use this one or this one, depending on how much room I have. And if you want to create your tabs with magnets in them, I do 5 layers. I use these magnets. They're pretty thick. Let's see if I can zoom in, and you can see. Okay, they're nice and thick. They're probably twice as thick as the ones you buy in the packets of 6 pair. And these are I get these on eBay, and they're relatively inexpensive, but they're really strong, so they will adhere through several layers of paper much more effectively than the thinner ones do. Okay, let's go back out here. Now, if you're going to do it the way I'm doing it, after you've cut your piece out of card, and I use the 110-pound weight card, so it takes only 5 layers. Only, listen to me. But it makes a nice sturdy chipboard tab. It's gonna last. So now you have this piece here that is the center of the little top, like where maybe you'd put a piece of twine through or something. See that little piece there? It's this piece here, and you want to save that. You need that. You need 2 out of the 5, and I just saved them all. And then I will show you how I build my tab, and the rest of them I'll build off camera because they do take quite a bit of time. And you could use any paper you want to. I need one of these magnets. Piece of score tape, and I put this, let me come in a little tighter here. Put the score tape over the hole. The magnet is going to sit right there, right up to the edge. That sits on there. Now, this is why you need to save the centers, so you can hide the magnet. And of course this just fits perfectly. And there it is. Okay, now I need to leave one of these whole for the back, but the other 3 I need to use my my hole punch on, and I punch this out. Let's get wider out here. I'm going to be off camera all the time. Okay, so I punch this out below the hole. I'm just going to trim that top loop off, and then this should slide right around the magnet, just like that. Use liquid adhesive of your choice. This is getting so old that it just clogs up all the time. Oh. All right. Line up. What this is going to do is build up around the magnet so it stays perfectly concealed. Now I'm going to put another piece of score tape on this side of the magnet because I want something to stick that little dot to. It's not going to go away. There we go. Wet adhesive. Centerpiece back in. And there you go. It's a nice heavy piece that will take being lifted and handled quite a bit. Okay, so this is going to go right there. Pretty. I'm going to use my tacky glue for this one, for this part of the gluing down. That will keep it solidly in place. to adhere this to my mat. Burnish it down. You do not want this glue going anywhere. Now you want to put it up next to the score line, not over it. Okay, now I need to get the magnet adhered down over here, and I'm simply going to do that by taking one of the magnets, and it will find its own spot. Just drop it, and there it is. Adhesive to adhere this to the page. I want the paper around this magnet nice and stuck, so that's why I'm giving it a little more around it. And you could use score tape, your ATG if you're as comfortable with yours as I am with mine. This stuff is really sticky, so I don't have any problem using it. Wet glue, whatever makes you comfortable. Okay, this goes on the page. Here I just make sure the three sides look relatively even. And the fourth takes care of itself. And there is side one of our 6 pages. Okay, I'm going to put this here. I'm going to make it a belly banded tag. Is going to slide in here, and this will be the stopper. But before I do that, I'm going to put some glitter around the edge. So the first thing I'm going to do is give it some ink. I'm going to use my 1/8 inch score tape, and I am going to lay it along the edge. It will give me a perfectly straight line of glue. what am I doing? Okay, I'm just going to lay down a line of glitter. Pick it up and press it in. Go, glittered edge. This will go right here. Put a little bit of wet glue on each edge. Wet glue. Put it down. Now we've got our belly band. Now that measures 4 inches, so we probably have 3.5 at the most for width, but that means one of the large tags will fit in there. So I'm going to find one of the large cut aparts, decide which one I want. This one, the first day of Christmas. This is our first page. This is going to be 4 inches wide. It won't work. But this will. Okay, so we've got our belly band on there. Now we have about 3.5 inches max to use. Take a little piece of scrap and cut it at 3.5. Corner's going to be a problem. Okay. Okay, so 3.5 by 3.5 by 4. One of my scraps. So that would make that 3.25 by 3.75. I want to save this border stuff and the little fancy corners just in case there's something I'd like to use this on. So I'm going to take my craft knife and just cut it out. Going to round these corners, and then I'm going to use my other chopper goodness, it should be right here. It is. postage on there, so I'm going to cut this so I can have it. This 3 3/4 wide. I have to take this down another little bit because of the shape of that corner. We'll see. Oh, perfectly. Okay. Now I need a piece for the other side. save those little decorative corners. Scallop here. Trim that off to just below that line. See if I can't keep that able to see the head of my partridge. Sorry about blocking your view. Tab on there. I'm going to do a couple of those mini size. I'll cut out and I'll be right back. Okay. Cut some of these little tabs. first side of page 1. Okay, this looks pretty good the way it is, and could certainly leave it that way. But I want to add a little more, so I grabbed my Parisian Accents border die, and I'm going to add it here, and maybe on the inside page, but definitely here. Give it a little pizzazz. You could use any border punch you have to create these little accents. Okay. Yeah, it just gives it a little bit of something. Okay, next on to the back side of the first page. Okay, the back side of page 1. We'll need a piece of our basic cardstock. Cut it 7 1/4 by 5 3/4. We'll score at 1/2 and 3/8. We're going to have a pocket. Cut it 8 1/4 by 3, and we'll score 3 sides at 1/2 inch. And then our mat piece, which is 5 1/4 by 7 1/4. And I made a note to myself that I'm going to put ribbon under because I'm going to tie this down with a piece of pretty ribbon. So start with cutting the card pieces. And my scraps are big enough for this cut, so 7 1/4. 5 3/4. 8 1/4 by 3. And I was able to use one of my scraps, which is nice. Now our matte paper. do some fussy cutting off of that. I'm going to use this one. Scoring. This one doesn't require any. This one we're doing a 1/2 inch on the 2 short sides and 1 of the long sides. There it is. This one along the long side at 3/8 and then 1/2. 3/8, 1/2. Okay, so on your pocket, you want to cut these, miter these corners. You cut here and here. Together without overlapping. And again, this 1/8 inch on this piece that's going to come over the top is not absolutely necessary, but I think it is definitely better design. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is ink my edges. use my ribbon. And the mat will be 7 by 7. By 2 1/4. Okay, ran out of tape, didn't know it, so I will show you on the pattern pieces what I did, or how I did it. What I've got is the pocket. I adhered the flap, the magnet here under the paper of the matte paper of the pocket, so it magnets down. I adhered the flap to the mat, adhered the cover sheet, pierced to put my brad in, which is just this ring pull. It's from Tim Holtz. I added this tag and pocket that is part of the paper collection, and then I simply created a mat to go inside. I trimmed with a little bit of my Parisian accent border. And we will probably make another page like this. I will definitely be making more mats, so I will show you how I used my double scallop punch to get it so it matched up really well. But to create the fold over, this is the mat paper, so you don't adhere it down. You do your folds, you do your scores, fold it over, and you'll put your paper down and you'll adhere it right next to that 3/8 inch score line, and then this will fold over the top of the mat paper. And it's as simple as that.